in circulation for the Austrian school is the same as inflation. It's a synonym for inflation. If you minimize the increase of production of representative money, you automatically make it so that the monetary basis, the amount of currency in circulation, is less, or avoiding it growing, but in a careful way, in a very without provoking periods of boom and then of crisis. With this, bringing reliability to the national banks through mechanisms to contain the deposit. If they have to have trust, those who have current accounts, and everybody moves to take the money out of the banks at the same time, the whole bank system, the financial system collapses. There isn't money, in fact, in the banks. Did you know that the trauma of the French with crisis is so great that the French are the nation that keeps most gold at home with fear of losses? Because of the crisis of 1929, created in 1930, the BIS, the Bank for International Settlements, which was made up by the central banks of the world and regulated in Basilea in Switzerland. In 1974, this bank created the Basilea for inspection of bank systems. Not inspect, because that's what the central banks of each country do. The objective of this committee is to create norms, guidance, rules to guide inspection of the banks, eliminate the production of and indiscriminate production of representative money, and finally protect current account owners, those who take their money for the bank to care for. Who would imagine that here today we would be in the School of Law of the Federal University of Minas Gerais talking about economics and finding that at the basis of the world economy today we have two contracts well known to us in law. The third factor of production, that which generates economy, which is money, comes in a small part from the central bank, which prints it, but it comes in a greater measure from the successive practice of two contracts by the banks, the contract of deposit and that of loans. The deposit, which is irregular because the money is fungible, and the loan contract, because it's a loan of a fungible good. These two contracts are at the basis of the world economy. These two contracts are practiced greater or lesser intensity, which generates more or less currency and unbalance or balance the economy of each of the countries. The difference between the loan of money in deposits, because in the loan of money, the purpose of the person who loans the money is profit, and that's it. And in the deposit account, the greater purpose of the one who delivers his money for deposit is safety, security. This profit is the second. The greatest is security. And in the world, the person gives up the availability. The money is theirs. They don't want to give up the availability. This was emphasized by the Supreme Court in Brazil, by a law in Rio de Janeiro, by Minister Moreira Alves. He is a great authority on civil law. So we find that in a bank deposit, there's a double availability of the money. Since the one who deposits the money to the bank for the bank to keep it wants an availability, they can withdraw the money at any moment. On the other hand, the bank also has availability because they don't have to keep that money there, at least in current situation. They can loan the money. So the bank has the availability to loan the money, but at the same time, the one who deposited the money has the availability to withdraw the money at any moment. I am referring to the one who implements, who makes the deposit at site, wants to take the money out at any moment, and the one who does it at term, who intends to take it and the money out later, investing in savings accounts. To limit the production of representative money and to protect the current account owner, there are 7 mechanisms throughout the world. The first mechanism, they are these. We're going to talk very carefully about them. The first mechanism, or one of the first mechanisms, are the coefficient of 100% in cash or 100% ballast. What does this mean? This means that if I deposit 100 reals in the bank so that they can loan, they can't loan the 100. The bank has to keep 100% of the money received in deposit. It's a coefficient of 100% cash deposit. The other system, if they receive 100 reals, they can loan 100 reals as long as they keep in gold in the vaults of the bank the equivalent to 100 reals. These two systems practically move away the production of representative money because the bank cannot loan money without having the ballast in gold. This system, only for the at-site deposits, is supported by the Austrian school. So the followers of this school say that the money received by the banks and at-site deposits cannot be loaned. If it were loaned, it couldn't. 100% ballast had to be kept in the vaults. On the other side, the followers of the Keynes school have of the fractionary reserve, which is what has prevailed throughout the world. That is, a percentage of the money that the banks received should be passed on as a compulsory loan, which, as we call it in Brazil, because this is the name used by Article 10 of Law 4945. Part of this money has to be given to the central bank that keeps it. This percentage is an estimate. It's calculated in the same way as insurance companies to estimate the risk of the car being stolen. This study intends so that there's a sufficient to meet the demands of withdrawals or transfer of the money which has been deposited in a current account. In Brazil, this percentage varies. 100% for at-site deposits and 60 up to 100% of at-site and until 60% of long-term deposits. One of the other rules of the economy, another 3 rules are based on Basileia, the guidance from the Basileia Agreement of the International Agency, which have been incorporated in Brazil through norms or regulations of the National Monetary Council and rules of the central bank. The 4th method is the demand that the bankers should put in new money into the bank so that if there is a problem, first the loss will be to the bank before reaching the deposits of people in general. The other mechanism, or the 5th mechanism, are criteria, very strict rules. We loan money only for those who are able to pay for the loan. We have seen that that is not enough to solve problems, that the most solid guarantee than actual, and in spite of this, there was the 2007 crisis. The 6th mechanism, and this is interesting for us directly, is that of the insurance guarantee. In Brazil, it is done through an association of banks called the Guaranteeing Deposit Fund. Just to remind you, it's the institution that loaned money to the controller of the Silvio Santos Group for the holding of the Silvio Santos Group controlled the Pan American Bank. The mechanism for the functioning of the guaranteeing fund, the credit guarantee fund, is the second guarantee. First, there